You're listening to the Fanalist Podcast. Follow on Twitter at TheFanalystPod.
Welcome to the Fanalist Podcast. I'm Andrew alongside Jayden, and this episode is going to be fully dedicated to free agency and trade talks with the NBA and NHL. At any point, jump on down to the timetable in the description, and you can jump to the topics that you care about the most. I suggest sticking with us, as we are going to start discussing some big hockey decisions and work our way up to breaking news about Kevin Durant's departure from Oklahoma City. Thanks for tuning into the Fanalist Podcast. Please subscribe on YouTube, follow us on Twitter at TheFanalystPod, and like our page on Facebook. All right, Jayden. So Milan Lucic was one of the headlining signings during the free agent time. He signed to a 7-year deal with the Edmonton Oilers. And also the Oilers, besides just signing him, they made a pretty interesting trade that a lot of people were questioning with Taylor Hall and Adam Larsson. But let's start with Milan Lucic. What do you think about the signing?
I love it. Man. He has swagger. He's got toughness. He's got the skill. It's everything that the Oilers need right now, and I think that he'll bring a lot of knowledge to the Oilers' young locker room, especially with McDavid, Eberle, Nugent Hopkins, Nail Yakupov, all these young guys that need that veteran presence that has a lot of confidence and on the borderline arrogant side.
Yeah, if I described Milan Lucic to someone who didn't know him, I'd call him a middle class man's Jerome McGinley. I feel like, even though the way that Lucic is, just his aggressiveness and as well his potential scoring threat, he's pretty much just like Jerome McGinley, except, a little bit of a down version of him. He's definitely not going to be as much of a threat. He's not scoring 40 goals anytime soon, but Peter Chiarelli seems pretty confident he's going to be a 30 to 35 goal scorer. And, I think 30's the ceiling. Probably get about 25 goals, maybe increase the assists because he'll have a lot more time, a lot more critical time on the power play with Connor McDavid and a few other of the team's stars. But, overall, I feel like the benefit that the team has gotten from signing Milan Lucic, I kind of feel like they lost that when they gave Taylor Hall away for such a low haul to the New Jersey Devils for Adam Larsson.
I was actually surprised with the Hall and Larsson trade.
A lot of people were.
I mean, Taylor Hall was one of the better young guys, and if it were me, if I was the GM, if I was Chiarelli, I would not be trading away Taylor Hall. I think he still has a lot to offer, and he could have brought Edmonton more wins this season and for seasons to come. Now, I'm not saying Larsson's a bad player. He's a great player, but I'm just saying that I think they could have used Hall more, and maybe they would have been better to get rid of an Eberle or a Nail Yakupov, who hasn't really been producing that much at the NHL level.
Yeah, it was obvious that, right now the asking price for an NHL defenseman is really high. To have to give up Taylor Hall for Adam Larsson, I'm sure that wasn't the only thing they considered. I'm sure that Peter Chiarelli, as much as people hate him, and I do think he's a pretty poor GM, I think he did talk to some other teams and try and work out some other stuff. He certainly talked to Montreal about PK Subban, which we'll get to later. But of course, there were reasons why that didn't work out, which we'll get to. But, I feel like signing Milan Lucic, it was a good replacement for Taylor Hall, but he's not going to be, Taylor Hall at the peak of his career is going to be better than Milan Lucic at his peak.
They're two different players.
They are two completely different players, but, the value of a left wing like Taylor Hall is so much higher than Milan Lucic. But this team needed something to add to their defense, and I still feel like they're a long ways away. You can have a really great offense in the NHL, but if you don't have a number one goalie, I don't know if Cam Talbot is going to be that guy for them. And you still need some more work on defense. I feel like it would have been great if they could have got a little bit more for Taylor Hall, because they certainly still have some more work to do.
Definitely. Adam Larsson is not a number one defenseman. He's a great kid.
He can be on the top pairing.
He can be, but he's not their franchise defenseman.
Yeah, and a lot of people were giving Larsson too much flack because of his numbers, and he doesn't produce that much points wise and whatever. If you look at, if you look at a lot of the in-depth hockey statistics of Adam Larsson and the type of competition he had to face when he was in New Jersey, this is a guy who at all times was up against the top line, up against the best players from the other team. And when you're on the ice with someone like Sidney Crosby or Alex Ovechkin or Taylor Hall or Milan Lucic, your goal is not to score goals. You are there strictly to defend, protect the net, and that's what Adam Larsson does really well. He's a great defenseman, and he did a pretty great job in New Jersey. He's going to continue to grow and become an even better defenseman. Is he a top defenseman in the NHL? By no means. Could he be? Sure, he could. There's a chance that he does very well, and Taylor Hall struggles somewhere else outside of Edmonton with the kind of team he grew up with that was so offensively focused. So maybe this trade turns around to haunt the Oilers. I kind of doubt that, but as of now, the trade from Taylor Hall to New Jersey, I'm not really a fan of it. The signing of Milan Lucic, I think it's an okay cover-up for the mistake that they made. But, this team still has a lot of work to do to be a contender.
Absolutely, and I honestly think that with the signing of Milan Lucic to such a long-term deal, it kind of takes some pressure off of the Adam Larsson and Taylor Hall trade. So there's not so much pressure on Larsson to do well as there is for Lucic to step up and be a leader on the team and lead this team to some more wins, because they're not looking for a playoff run right now. They're looking to gain more wins. They're in the rebuilding stage. They have been for, 20 years now, I think?
It feels like it's been a long time. It's been 10 years since they were in the playoffs.
Yeah, so I honestly think Lucic will be taking the pressure off of Larsson and just has to basically step up for the team.
The goal for this franchise right now, it sounds like they think they can make the playoffs. I doubt that. Are they a little bit closer after this trade? Maybe with their signing of the number 4 draft pick, Puljujärvi, if that's how you pronounce his name. Nobody really knows at this point. I've heard like 20 different pronunciations of his name.
Them Finnish players, huh?
Let's wait for him to do a great one-on-one interview with somebody and let us all know how it's pronounced, because as of now, I've heard many different variations. But, the Oilers, they have a lot of future signees coming up as well with Yakupov, Draisaitl, Darnell Nurse, and of course, Connor McDavid. So it's going to be interesting to see in the next few years what kind of team they're able to build around these longer contracts like Milan Lucic. There was another big one, and it was Steven Stamkos returning to the Tampa Bay Lightning. What was your initial thought when you saw him returning for the low price tag of $8.5 million a year?
I wasn't really concerned as much as on the money. I was concerned on why he wanted to come back to Tampa Bay. They were really close this year winning the Cup, and I think that's all he really wants is a chance to win the Cup. And I think he made the right decision in staying, and I think that if Tampa Bay can continue their success that they had from this year over into next year, then I think they can be a big contender again.
Yeah, it's obvious, even though it was a discussion for such a long time throughout the entire season, is Stamkos, does he want to go play somewhere like Toronto where, he'll be on billboards and, he'll probably get a huge flood of...
I'm coming home.
...of sponsorships, yeah, stuff like that. He decided he didn't want to go play somewhere high, somewhere with a lot of eyes on him, and he didn't really want to go chase the money. He wanted to stay somewhere where he had a chance, and you have to give a lot of credit to Steve Yzerman, who, gave Stamkos an offer that he knew he'd come back to. Whether he knew he'd actually come back to or not, don't know, but he gave an offer and he stood pat on that. And, for $8.5 million a year, that's not too bad for Steve Stamkos. There's a lot of tax benefits of living in Florida, and, Stamkos, he wants a cup. Tampa Bay is definitely going to be one of the best cities, for him to do that, especially in the Eastern Conference. They're going to be a top team. Even if he left, I think they'd still be, one of the top 4 teams in the East.
And, you got to give it up to the fan base. They've been through a whole lot, especially with St. Louis, whole fiasco there.
Yeah, a lot of stars seem to love leaving Tampa Bay.
Now, the game day staff and some of the front office, I'm not too happy with how in the playoffs you weren't allowed to be wearing the other team's jersey. I'm not going to get into that right now. Just going to say I don't like it. But honestly, the fans have been amazing. You can hear, if you're watching it on TV or if you're at the game, you can feel the energy that they're playing at. You can feel the energy that the fans bring every night. And it's great to see. And I'm sure Stamkos had that in his mind when he wanted to make his decision. And I think he made the right decision in staying with the Tampa Bay Lightning.
Yeah, it's certainly a type of city that loves its players when they're doing well. Tampa Bay, being in Florida, can really struggle when they don't have a top-performing team on the ice. So all around, this is great for the organization. And talking about, fans that love their team, there's a lot of upset fans in Montreal with PK Subban. We'll just touch on this lightly. It's really been beaten to death over the past few days. PK Subban going to the Nashville Predators, Shea Weber coming back, a classic one-for-one hockey trade. And, my take on that is PK Subban just, it wasn't the right fit in Montreal, and it's a shame because the community there loves him. His face is blown up and on the side of the hospital, and the fans are going to take a while to heal the wound from this one. But in the meantime, they still have Shea Weber coming back, who's a pretty great defenseman.
No, honestly, PK Subban is my favorite player in the NHL. I've seen him play here for the Belleville Bulls a couple years ago. I've seen all the brothers play, but he's by far my favorite player. He's such an energetic player. He can get the crowd going with one rush up the ice.
That's the thing, right? He's just such an easy player to love as a fan. And, even as, people in the media, they love PK Subban. But that's kind of part of the problem is a place like Montreal is so old school in their thinking. They don't want a guy who stands out and, is drawing in stuff like that. Like when you talk about, a lot of athletes now getting involved with social media and Snapchat and stuff like that, like I'm sure PK Subban has a Snapchat. I don't have it, but that's the kind of thing they don't like. They don't like somebody who draws in that many eyes, and
they like
it's a little
tradition.
bit about them.
They like tradition.
Someone who's just a team player shows up and plays and says nothing. That's why everyone loves Jonathan Toews with the Blackhawks. Captain serious, and you don't hear much from Jonathan Toews. I think he's boring because of that. I think PK Subban's going to be a great addition in Nashville, and the fans there are going to embrace him.
Oh, absolutely. And now let's just switch over to talk about Shea Weber for a second. Now, I get a lot of people are mad about PK Subban leaving, but let's compare the two. Shea Weber, PK Subban. PK Subban, much more outgoing, likes to get the crowd fired up with one simple play. Shea Weber, I honestly think, in my opinion, he's kind of that old school player. If he has a shot, he has a powerful shot. He has the hardest shot in the league, other than Zdeno Chara, but still. I think this will help Montreal playing like hockey-wise, but off the ice, I don't think it'll help them that much. Shea Weber's not the guy to help out in the community. Now, I'm not saying he's a good guy, but he's not the kind of guy that would stand out in a crowd.
And that's what they want, right? I think if I had to take one or the other, I'm taking PK Subban from a strictly hockey perspective.
Absolutely.
But, if that's what you're trying to build in Montreal, is you want a serious team, Shea Weber's the better fit. But we'll see how they feel about him in 10 years when they're still paying him, because he is a big contract that's going to last a long time. Maybe they'll try and find a way to trade that. Maybe they're hoping there's going to be a salary cap spike and they can get away with it. But, after all, I think it's disappointing for the fans of Montreal. They certainly don't need me to tell them that, but it's just, it's a bad look for the franchise, for their fans. A lot of people in the streets are upset, but it's hockey, and this is what happens. Sometimes your players walk away, and we'll talk about another player who walks away a little bit later in this podcast.
Thanks for tuning in to the Fanalist Podcast. I'm Jayden, and you can follow us at TheFanalystPod.
All right, now in the NBA, free agency opened up with a fountain of money being thrown all over players, and people are a little bit upset about how much money some of these guys are getting. Timothy Mozgov, $16 million a year to join the Lakers. Mike Conley getting the richest contract in NBA history, and a lot of people right now listening to this podcast just opened up another tab to search and Google who Mike Conley is, and I'll let you know right now he's not even a top 10 point guard in the league.
Just foolish.
In a few years, you'll know who Mike Conley is. He's going to be an all-right player. $30 million a year right now sounds like a lot of money, but year after year, the salary cap's going to increase. And at the end of his contract, $30 million might not actually be that much.
No, honestly, Mike Conley, I don't understand why he's getting this much money. He's not a great point guard. He is not in the elite point guard category. There's so much more players that I would want to get the $30 million that he's getting per year. Now, I'm just saying, I don't like how they're getting $30 million per year. I think it's absurd. I think it's way too much money. And just to add on to that, why is he the one that's getting it? He has not ever made an all-star team. He's never participated in all-star festivities. Why is he getting it? The point guard from Memphis. I mean, come on, NBA, lighten up.
Yeah, if you look at the NFL a few years ago, the highest contract inked was, given to Joe Flacco, somebody who was a pretty good, quarterback, somebody who'd won a championship in Baltimore, won a Super Bowl, and a lot of people were just like, what the heck? How can you make that kind of a thing? And now the NBA is just making that look like it was a joke. Now, like Andrew Luck, he's now the highest paid guy in the NFL. Not really a big deal. And in the NBA, there's just a lot of money going around. Even next year, looks like the cap's going to go up another 12 to 15 million because of this new TV deal. So it's great for a lot of these NBA players. And, here close to home with the Toronto Raptors, it makes you think that $10.5 million per year contract to Terrence Ross, it's really not that crazy anymore, is it?
Oh, no, that's like...
It's almost, you almost might think it's a steal.
That's pennies.
He could have, if he'd waited till now, if there was a shorter contract, maybe the Raptors would have tried to get rid of him and go somewhere else this season. But he would be getting paid, I think, more than $10.5 million this year.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, just the money that's being tossed around is ridiculous right now. Mike Conley, Dwight Howard, sorry.
Okay,
DeMar
Dwight
DeRozan.
Howard. Let's talk about Dwight Howard for a moment. Jayden, let me know why he's worth the amount of money he's making right now. Because year after year, Dwight Howard's production has plummeted. So everyone listening, you can actually head on over to my Twitter page at FanalystDrew, and you'll find this retweet that I sent out from Bleacher Report, where it shows a graph of, the drop in points per game and the drop in rebounds per game and the rise in salary for Dwight Howard. But Jayden, tell me why Dwight Howard is worth this. Is he really going to make up for the past few seasons and all of a sudden be a top center in the league?
I like giving people second chances.
Second chances?
Sorry.
With money?
Sorry, not with money. I'm just saying that I think that
This is like a fourth or fifth chance.
They think he's going to do better just because he's from Atlanta, hometown boy. He's coming back home. I think that they gave him this much money just because they believe in him, really. I don't believe in him. I think he's not he's a good basketball player. He hasn't shown very much consistency.
He's an all right center in the league. Like he's been okay.
He used to be a top 5 center in the league.
Sure. Then he went to the Lakers, and then he was with Houston. And
the Lakers was his down point. That was rock bottom.
He's left a lot to be desired over the past few seasons. And he's getting paid. Everyone's getting paid right now. But the way he's dropped off, do you really think he's gonna make an impact with Atlanta? Do you think he fits in well with the team they have there?
I don't think so. Not that much. They don't really have that true scorer. I mean, they have George Hill now from the Pacers, that trade they made for Jeff Teague. They have no one really.
Even Al Horford, just left for the Celtics.
Yeah, all they have. Who do they have? They have Kyle Korver.
Yeah, I mean, maybe
3-point shooter.
You get Dwight Howard because you need somebody to play. That's a lot of money to give somebody because
that's going to be their strategy. Just get it down low and see what the big man can do down the post. But honestly, I don't think he's going to do that well in Atlanta. It's just not a good fit for him.
Okay, well, speaking of good fits, DeMar DeRozan, a lot of people say he's a great fit in Toronto, originally drafted, and now re-signing for an additional 5 years for $27.5 million. Probably, it's a rich contract, of course, but that's the theme of this year's free agency for the NBA. I'm hoping that DeMar DeRozan just hasn't reached his ceiling yet in the NBA. Do you think he can get better?
Oh, absolutely. And I've said this before, and I'll say it again. His playing style is just like Kobe Bryant. He's a shooting guard that will take it down to the post and do his work down there. He's not a guy that likes to shoot the outside jumper. If I was defending him, I'd let him shoot the outside jumper. He doesn't have a very good percentage on it. Now, he has been working on that, and he has been working at taking better shots, you could say.
But I mean, even in this past postseason, we saw that a lot of his decision making, it's still lacking. It's like if you look at your the way you shoot and the decisions you make from a maturity standpoint, he's still a 16-year-old go hard. Like he's trying to make these shots that only Steph Curry can make.
He definitely has a lot to learn. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that he does have a lot of room to get better. He just has to find the right mentor to show him the way to have a successful career in the NBA.
What do you think Toronto has to do to be able to compete in the Eastern Conference? I mean, of course, this year they competed. They played against, the Cleveland Cavaliers, won 2 games, and, those are the future champions. So, you were 2 games away from beating them. That's not too bad. But what do the Raptors have to do in order to beat the Cleveland Cavaliers?
Well, they got to get it. Well, they got to play better.
I think that's the main thing. The players all have to improve that they have.
Exactly. And honestly, they weren't that far away from going to the NBA Finals. Cleveland was just stronger. To me, they had more talent, and they just played a lot harder than Toronto did. with that being said, Toronto also needs to get a power forward. They can't be flopping around with Patrick Patterson, Luis Scola, James Johnson in the 4. They need to get that solid 4-man that can start for them every single game of the season.
Pau Gasol would have been a great match, but we just got news about a half hour ago. We just stated when we recorded this podcast. It's currently Monday afternoon on July the 4th. So happy USA Day, happy Independence Day to any American listeners. If you listen from the States, then thank you very much. We doubt we have any American listeners, but hey, if you're listening, happy Independence Day. But like we said, Pau Gasol, working on a contract, figuring something out for the San Antonio Spurs. He's not coming to Toronto. So now what? Now what can the Raptors do to make an impact for this upcoming season?
They just got to keep looking for their 4-man. Honestly, they're good at the 1. They're good at the 2. They're good at the 3. They're getting there at the 5. JV, he's definitely
he's still going to grow though.
I'm just saying from for the 5 from a bench standpoint. Now that Biyombo's gone to Orlando,
okay, that's fair.
They need to get someone coming off the bench for JV. I don't think they'll be able to get another Biyombo.
Lucas Nogueira, how do you feel about him?
I think he definitely has a lot of growing to do.
Yeah, I feel like it would be great if he could spend another season in the D League.
Yeah, one or two more seasons in the D League. Maybe bring him up for some games against like the 76ers or something like that, some low-class team. Sorry, not low-class.
Low talent.
Low talent. There you go. Maybe bring him up for a couple games against some teams like that. But yeah, really they need to work at the 4 position. They need to get a solid 4-man that they can count on every single game to go in there and start. They can't be flip-flopping around throughout their lineup. It's not good for the chemistry.
There's lots to do for the Toronto Raptors to become a championship team, but the way you got to look at it right now is going back and re-signing DeMar DeRozan. It's something they had to do. They didn't really have many other options, and if you let someone like him walk, it might take another while to get that type of player to return to Toronto.
And it's going to bite you.
Yeah, this team would be a lot worse if DeMar DeRozan didn't re-sign. I don't actually know what other piece they could have gone for that was realistically interested in Toronto, but it could have set the franchise back a while if he didn't re-sign. Maybe if he didn't, they would have kept Bismack Biyombo.
And maybe went after Kevin Durant.
Speaking of Kevin Durant, someone who is absolutely in no way coming to Toronto, he signed today with the Golden State Warriors. What a powerhouse they're building in the West. Obviously, after winning the championship 2 years ago, this past season they weren't able to repeat against the Cavaliers. Does Kevin Durant make it a no-brainer?
Don't replay that for me. Come on, man. I'm a Warriors fan. You can't be replaying that for me.
Too bad. But does you're a Warriors fan. Do you think Kevin Durant makes you a better team? What was, looking at the record this past season, how much is that going to improve?
I think it's going to improve a lot.
82-0, right?
What? See, now I wouldn't go that far. I would not go that far.
How about 80-2?
80-2 is more realistic, but they're not there yet. I don't think it'll just take a while to get their chemistry going together. I'm excited to see what the starting lineup's going to be because Draymond Green and Kevin Durant play the same position, but both of them can play the 4 too.
It's going to be Green and Durant out there with Curry and Clay. There's no surprises there, and Andre Iguodala coming in as well. I think
who's going to be their center?
They'll figure it out. Look at them. They played small all season. They got enough big bodies there that
No.
They're just going to be playing a very new brand of basketball.
I have trust in them. I completely trust that they're going to be playing small ball. I know that they're not a big man team. But with Bogut, he's leaving this year.
Yeah, he's probably going to Dallas.
Who's going to be their big man?
I don't know. But I mean, I don't think that's a huge issue for them.
Festus?
Probably. Yeah, that's probably who's going to be their big man.
He's going to stay with them?
But I don't think he's, he might start in the starting 5 every once in a while. But, I think Golden State's going to surprise us again this year with a new type of offense. But it won't be that surprising at all because when you add Kevin Durant to what they already had, there's no way to do anything but improve.
No, absolutely. Kevin Durant is one of the best players in the NBA, plain and simple. There's no doubt about it. He's one of those guys that will go into the gym afterwards, put up shots. He always wants to improve. He's not cocky. He doesn't have a big ego. He's just a hard-working basketball player. that's it. That's all you got to say about him. He's hardworking. He hits clutch shots. He's fast. He's got handles. He's what, 6'9"?
Yeah.
That has hands. You don't see that every day, especially at the 3 position.
Well, yeah, I mean, the big story right now with Kevin Durant and a lot of people is, they're saying he took the easy way out. The team that knocked him out of the playoffs, he just turned around and joined them this year.
What's the problem with that?
He left Russell Westbrook behind. Yeah, what's the problem with that? That's the way I see it. A lot of people are upset. A lot of keyboard warriors going at it on Twitter and Facebook and everywhere, just, completely ripping on Kevin
warriors,
Durant.
I like that. I like that.
Keyboard warriors, of course. If they were in person standing in front of Kevin Durant, they'd want his autograph. On their new fresh Golden State jersey that they're going to be wearing, a week into preseason.
Oh, speaking of which, I saw I was at the mall right before we started recording this, and
They already have Durant jerseys, don't they?
Oh man, I saw this guy walking around with a Golden State hat, this Golden State shirt. I'm like, yeah, oh man, I bet you were a Cleveland fan about 10 o'clock this morning.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I can't remember before Golden State became relevant a few seasons ago. I don't remember ever meeting a single person who was a Golden State Warrior fan. And, I don't want to rip on people who bandwagon. I mean, if you're a fan of the Philadelphia 76ers and a few seasons ago you decided to jump ship, I don't even blame you. Like, I completely get it.
I'm pretty sure everyone did that.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you don't see many 76ers jerseys going around anymore unless it says Iverson on the back. And what I'd say to the people who are really critical of Kevin Durant right now is that we can't have it both ways, okay? You can't get mad at a guy who goes to a bad team for a huge payday and then get angry when someone takes a pay cut to go and chase a title. You can't get mad at people for both of those situations because what's the difference between Kevin Durant and Steven Stamkos? Steven Stamkos, of course, it's because he's staying with his team that's on the up and up.
Because they have a better chance.
Right, but exactly, that's what he's doing, right? Steven Stamkos said, I don't need this huge payday in Toronto or, in Buffalo or Detroit. I don't need $12 million a year. $8.5 million will get enough food on my table in Florida, and I'll be okay with that. And nobody really bats an eye. Okay, he's going back to Tampa Bay, a bit of a thanks for pulling our leg and making us talk about it for the last year for no reason. You could have just agreed to this in the first place. But, Kevin Durant, he wants to win a title. I think the reason he's leaving, and it's obvious with his post in the Players Tribune, is he's leaving OKC for Golden State because he thinks he has a better chance to win a title now.
And he does.
You can't disagree with that. And all the credit goes to Golden State, who locked up Steph Curry a few seasons ago for a long-term deal that's extremely favorable, because otherwise you don't have the option to do this.
No, absolutely. I'm glad Kevin Durant went to Golden State. I think they're going to do phenomenal this season, and I think they're going to win the championship. I'm saying it right now. They're going to win the championship.
The way it is right now with the NBA is, you have to find a way to manipulate your salary cap to build these types of teams where you get these stars to all come together. And if I had to make a prediction of who I think would do this type of thing next, right now it's Golden State. Like I said, Steph Curry has a very favorable contract that for right now allowed them to take on Kevin Durant. I feel like in the next few seasons, if they make the right decisions going forward with Andrew Wiggins and a few others, it could be the Timberwolves who are building something crazy with Ricky Rubio and whoever else they try and add onto that team. There's another team that's up and coming in the Western Conference. Yes, it's tough. Yes, it's, it's going to take a few more seasons to get there. But, the Minnesota Timberwolves are a team that in a few years, add another piece or two, and they could be going after titles as well.
Oh, absolutely. I love the Timberwolves. If Rubio can stay healthy, him and Wiggins can lead the team to the playoffs and do well in the playoffs.
Karl-Anthony Towns as well, Zach LaVine. Like, there's a lot of good pieces there that, you kind of hope if you're the Minnesota Timberwolves, you hope that where you expect these players to be going in the next few years is true, but you kind of hope that in the next year or two, they kind of have down seasons so that they can get some really favorable contracts, right? They can figure something out. I don't think there's any way that Andrew Wiggins is going to be signing a favorable contract unless there's some sort of injury or something that comes up in the next few seasons. But, he's a guy. Once his time comes up, you better have him locked up or he's going to be one of these high-paid guys going out into the free agency world.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Andrew Wiggins is one of the best. Well, I think he is the best Canadian player to play the game in a while since Steve Nash.
I think you have to give Steve Nash a lot of credit for what he's done.
Oh, no.
I think
Steve Nash is the greatest Canadian player ever to live.
In basketball.
In basketball.
Right.
So I have to make that clear.
Okay, so active, you say Andrew Wiggins is the best Canadian in the league.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, I don't think I would argue that. There's a few guys you could kind of make a case for because of the lack of success the Timberwolves have had thus far, but they're in a tough Western Conference.
Yeah, exactly. So I think Andrew Wiggins has yet to show his best years. They're still ahead of him. He's still going to dominate. He's still going to be going through defenses like none other, and they're going to make the playoffs one year, and it's going to be scary for the other teams.
Yeah, and like we mentioned a little while ago, the cap is going to increase another 13 to 15 million just for next season. So we're going to see a lot of huge deals coming out, and probably a lot more players that are kind of joining together and trying to build these super teams. That's kind of just the way the NBA is right now.
LeBron, Wade.
That could happen this year. We'll get to Wade in a minute. The last thing I want to touch on, though, is a tweet that Stephen A. Smith sent out. Okay, he was criticizing Kevin Durant for chasing. But Stephen A. Smith, in the very slight chance that you listen to the Fanalist podcast this week, you've changed the companies you work for, chasing an increase in your brand, like respect, like in everything, looking for more money, trying to make your brand bigger and become more aware and get a bigger audience. Stephen A. Smith, you've done this like the past 5 or 6 years. You've been flipped and flopped 4 or 5 different times. How can you go out on Twitter, like everyone, another keyboard warrior? I can't believe I'm calling Stephen A. Smith a keyboard warrior. I've accomplished nothing in the case, in comparison to him. But, yeah. I mean, you just go out, everyone's criticizing Kevin Durant for what the decision he's made. Kevin Durant wants to win a championship, and if his decision was, I'm going to go play for the team that gives me the best chance, Kevin Durant made the right decision.
Oh, for sure. Stephen A. Smith is by far the most opinionated analyst in the game right now.
Well, now that Skip Bayless is taking a back seat.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's Stephen A. Smith.
They're in the hot take business, right? So they're trying to create polarizing content and send out tweets to get, maximum retweets. I'm pretty sure he's reached like 50,000 retweets on what he sent out, but I just give Kevin Durant don't give him a break. That's not what it's about. It's not giving him a break. If Golden State goes out this season and they don't win a championship, give them hell. Because this is a team that, they just took the greatest regular season team of all time and added Kevin Durant, arguably one of, a top 3 player in the league. I don't know where you would put Kevin Durant right now, among the guys who play for the Warriors and LeBron James, but he's certainly a top 5 player.
No doubt.
And, he's joining the best regular season team of all time. So this team has to improve. If they don't win a championship this year, it's a huge disappointment. And if you had to make a final prediction on their already, I'm going to make you do it right now, for next regular season, what is their record in 82 games?
In 82 games?
Yes. Do you think they beat the record this year?
79-3.
Really? You think they would only lose 3 games?
Yep.
Here's what I'm going to say. I'm going to say that they don't match last season's record. I think they lose 10 or more games, and it's for one main reason. Somebody can get hurt. It's always overlooked. And the one problem that Golden State really has right now is by having all their money invested in a few players, they're going to lack a little bit of depth, right? There's going to be some players that will join for cheap contracts because they want to win a ring. Sean Livingston, he's going to be staying with the team. He'll be great off the bench.
Yeah, I like Sean Livingston. He's a good player.
Yeah, but I mean, there's a chance that if, a couple of these guys, like if 2 of these guys get injured, one's out for the playoffs and one misses a big chunk of the regular season, these guys might lose 10 to 15 games.
No, and there's no doubt about it. I just, from talent-wise right now,
if they stay healthy,
I think that there's no doubt in my mind that they can win 79 games.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll have to just, it's going to be a long time till we know. We'll have to wait and see.
I'm excited. Upcoming NBA season.
Well, and final thing here, Dwayne Wade was just offered a contract extension for 2 years from the Miami Heat with a player option on the second year of his deal. Do you think he's going to accept that and join the Heat? Or do you think he's going to go chase something, maybe with the Spurs, maybe go to Oklahoma?
I think D-Wade's loyal. I think he's going to stay with the Heat.
You think he'll stay with the Heat? You don't think he's, remember what happened when LeBron James came to join him? Do you think LeBron's going to say, hey, buddy, now it's your turn to come join me in my home and try and defend this title?
Oh, no doubt. LeBron's going to try to recruit him, but I think that D-Wade's smarter than that, and he'll want to stay in Miami where he's not the kind of guy that will go look for trouble.
I think he is. I think that Dwayne Wade is going to make a decision to try and compete this year for a title. The window is closing for Dwayne Wade. Not very quickly, but it's certainly closing. And if he wants to win a championship, I think his best chances are with a team like the Cavaliers. Fanalists, we want to hear... What's that?
He's already won one. So
he has won one, but everyone wants more than one. Like we look at, I think LeBron James wants another 5 before he retires. And, Steph Curry, it might be more realistic to say he'll get 5 more. But Fanalists, we want to hear from you. Hop on Twitter and tweet at us at TheFanalystPod. Get on our Facebook page. Make sure you like that as well. And let us know what you think about Dwayne Wade, about Kevin Durant, going back to even, Steve Stamkos and some of those earlier trades we were talking about in the NHL. Give us your thoughts. Let us know what you think. And thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Fanalist Podcast.
Thanks for tuning into the Fanalist Podcast. I'm Andrew, and you can follow us at TheFanalystPod.